Welcome to KCSN Update, your daily dose of Chiefs news and updates from us here at KC Sports Network. It's Thursday, August 25th. While the Chiefs prepare to trim their roster down to 53 players by next Tuesday, August 30th, we've got plenty of content around that if you follow and subscribe. But we're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking through the NFL's latest power rankings, which is something that we're going to be doing moving forward here on KCSN Update each week, and we will have a special recurring guest joining us each week, and we'll have more on that later. But we're going to figure out what ESPN thinks of the Chiefs right now compared to some of the other top teams in the AFC. Where are the Chiefs ranked? That is the million-dollar question, and some of these rankings might surprise you. Joining us for this week's show, breaking down the power rankings, will be our fearless podcast producer, Tucker Franklin, and we'll bring Tucker on right after this.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
All right, Tucker, let's run through the rankings from number 32 to number 28, going in reverse order as we work our way up to where the Chiefs position stands. Now, Tucker, when looking at the number 32 to number 28, what stands out to you the most? And looking at, I'll just go through it real fast. Atlanta Falcons, number 32, worst team in the NFL, according to ESPN. Houston Texans, New York Jets, Carolina Panthers, and the New York Giants. Whole lot of NFC teams right there at the bottom.
It's a shame that they can't be in the AFC, right? It's a shame that the Chiefs can't have a lot of these teams in their conference. But no, I think that the Giants are I'm a little bit lower on the Giants, I think, than the ESPN is. BJ, we were talking about before, the Houston Texans. ESPN said Davis Mills is on the hot seat for the Texans, the second-year quarterback who was thrusted in that position. So I'm a big Davis Mills fan. It's been documented. I wanted to see Davis Mills do well. Interesting to see from ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to go and check out the article, go down into the description of this on YouTube, and you can find the link to it, and you get all the breakdowns and kind of the reasoning for all of the players and coaches that they have on the hot seat. And you look at number 29, they have the hot seat being head coach Matt Rule. I think, Baker Mayfield is an easy one there too. He's the new guy, but there's so much publicity around Baker and the fact that they're going to play the Browns that I cannot wait for that game. That's probably the non-Chiefs game I am most excited to watch, because I'm not sure there's anybody outside of Cleveland that is rooting for the Browns. I don't care what you think about Baker Mayfield. You're going to feel for him after him playing through injuries for Cleveland and then what they did this offseason. But yeah, a lot of NFC teams there at the bottom of ESPN's power rankings as we get ready for the start of the 2022 NFL season. And the fact that there are a lot of AFC teams at the top is going to be something that we continue to talk about. But Tucker, before we go through the next 5 teams in ESPN's power rankings, let's check in with our partner at DraftKings. Kansas, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to the Sunflower State. It won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, all new customers will receive $100 in free bets when you sign up using code KCSN. Plus, one lucky customer will win a $100,000 free bet. That's right, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you $100 in free bets just for signing up today. No deposit required. Soon you'll be able to bet on money lines, spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, DraftKings Sportsbook. Plus, you'll be entered to win a $100,000 free bet when you sign up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with code KCSN to get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Kansas. Plus, one customer will win a $100,000 free bet. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700. Must be 21, physically present in Kansas. Eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. One per customer. $100 issued as 4 $25 free bets. No purchase necessary for sweepstake. Void where prohibited. Ends first day. DraftKings is allowed to operate in Kansas. See terms at DraftKings.com for details. So, Tucker, we've paid some bills. Now let's get to the next 5, as that features the Jacksonville Jaguars as the lone AFC team with old friend and new head coach down there, Doug Peterson. They come in at number 27. And for those keeping track, that's just 3 AFC teams out of the bottom 10, according, again, to these rankings from ESPN. Tucker, what stands out to you about Jacksonville Jaguars at 27, the Detroit Lions at 26, the Chicago Bears at 25, the Seattle Seahawks at 24, and the Minnesota Vikings at number 23?
Those all seem pretty good to me. I think I like the Lions a little. I'm probably a little higher on the Lions because they're on Hard Knocks, right? And they kind of have to take that into consideration watching Hard Knocks every week. The Chicago Bears, not a very good football team. I think that the Lions might jump them this year. I just want to see the Lions do well. I think everyone kind of sympathizes for that organization. So not a whole lot that I'd change there, though.
Yeah, the one that surprised me, Minnesota. I think they have some talent, and Kirk Cousins, for as much as sometimes he's great and sometimes he is absolutely awful. Dalvin Cook is an absolute stud. Justin Jefferson is a stud. They have some dudes down there, especially on the defensive side. I think the new coach is going to do some things. Saw some reports as far as just how he's treating players and just how things are a little bit different than they've been in the past under, I believe, Mike Zimmer. So I'm a little bit surprised that the Minnesota is low, although I don't expect them to be great. It is a little surprising, but it's also not surprising because it's an NFC team and they're ranked pretty low. Again, with the Jacksonville Jaguars being there near the bottom. And you talked about Detroit. They've got on the hot seat their quarterback in Jared Goff. Not a huge surprise there with the big trade that sent Matthew Stafford to the Rams for that Super Bowl win. Now there's going to be a lot more eyes on Jared Goff and Dan Campbell being, and I haven't watched much of Hard Knocks, but Dan Campbell seems like a fun old school football coach. I like
He's the absolute best. You will like Dan Campbell after you watch this. BJ, I think he's right up your alley too.
Really? I'm about that. And I saw a quote that said, I think people are making some generalizations about the way he talks about, well, he's obviously not that smart when it comes to football. And he doesn't have this next level strategic brain because he says some things that really just don't make sense. When looked at in a vacuum and looking literally, it doesn't make sense, but you're having a conversation, you hear a football coach say some things, it doesn't always have to make sense. But the guy's an NFL coach for a reason, and I like that it's a little bit different. I'm sure the players respond to it in a different kind of way than some other coaches. No one right way to do anything, but I enjoy what we've seen so far from Dan Campbell. All right, let's move on to the next wave of 5 teams, and these are rankings 22 to 18. Again, these are ESPN's latest power rankings, and these feature a couple of quarterbacks and a coach on the hot seat on these next 5 players, and the hot seat, that's according to the local ESPN beat writers for each of these teams. And the one thing to jump out here is Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins come in at number 19 on this list. And I know, Tucker, you'll have some takes on that, but the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, the Washington Commanders at 21, the New Orleans Saints at number 20, the Miami Dolphins at number 19 again, and then at 18, the Arizona Cardinals, who they've got their hot seat being head coach Cliff Kingsbury, which isn't completely out of there, especially we've seen Kyler, some reports about Kyler calling plays and it going really well, and some back and forth regarding how difficult that is, and Kyler seemingly have some success with it. Now you don't know where those reports are coming from, but interesting nonetheless. Tuck, what stands out to you about these 5 teams right here, right in the middle of these power rankings?
It has to be the Dolphins, right? The Dolphins at 19, just barely coming into the top 20. If you would judge what people were saying about the Miami Dolphins prior to this, you would have think they were a top 5 team. They're really not. If you start to look at the quarterback position, I think Nate Taylor made a really good point of this on, what was that, Tuesdays? KCS an update about the quarterback is the huge variable with teams. And if you can't figure out the quarterback, nothing's going to go right. So it's going to really depend on how good Tua is to see how good this Dolphins team is going to be, because they've got a bunch of ballers on that team. Offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of good football players. But can they get the football players? The football is kind of going to be the big thing, and Tua is the big question. I personally, I think the Saints are better than the Dolphins. I like Jameis Winston. I'm putting my faith in Jameis. I want to see them be higher than that.
Yeah, I'm here to see Jameis Winston come out and have some success. And with the Washington Commanders at 21, who's on the hot seat? Carson Wentz.
Right, yeah.
That seems kind of strange. Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder's on the hot seat.
He's always on the hot seat.
That guy might just lose his team the way things are going. But yeah, and the other issue that I have in regards to who's on the hot seat for the Miami Dolphins, they have cornerback Noah Igbenogany. I believe he was from Auburn. I remember him coming out of the draft, kind of a smaller nickel corner. That one's surprising to me with Tyreek writing, checks that I don't know his teammates can cash. And then obviously Tua being pushed. Not really. Nobody's talking about Teddy Bridgewater. He's being pushed by former K-State quarterback Skylar Thompson, who's going out there dealing during the preseason.
Oh.
And as much as the Miami Dolphins social team is trying to do everything they can to post every good throw that Tua has, there are also media at practice that are posting all the other throws that aren't even close. And so Tua is on the hot seat. If you were asking, I would think anybody outside of Miami that doesn't cover that team. I know it's next level thinking. Tua is an easy one. But to me, the answer is Tua, Tucker.
Yeah, it has to be. That dude has more pressure on him than I think any quarterback in the NFL, and he didn't even bring it upon himself. It's because of his teammates. He's got all that pressure.
All right, we're about halfway through now. Let's move on to the next 5 teams here in ESPN's Power Rankings. And the next wave is where it really starts to get interesting for Chiefs fans as we see the first AFC West team showing up. Again, we're already through 18, and they have the Las Vegas Raiders coming in at number 13. And that's the first AFC West team that's listed as being, basically fourth in the division to them, but still top 13 in the league, if that tells you anything about the respect that the AFC West is getting around the league. But to round out these 5 teams, the Cleveland Browns coming in at number 17, the Patriots at 16, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 15, the Indianapolis Colts at 14, and then again, like I just mentioned, the Raiders at 13. Before we get to the Raiders, I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns being number 17. That's an interesting one just because of the Deshaun Watson. He's missing most of the season. You don't know what it's going to be once he gets finally healthy and is able to play. Jacoby Brissett going to be the guy for them. They do have some talent. Amari Cooper, if you don't remember, he is in Cleveland and he is a dude, and they have one of the best rushing attacks in the entire NFL and a solid offensive line. So Nick Chubb is a stud. I saw Myles Garrett during the top 100 said Nick Chubb's best running back in the NFL. And there's a lot of people that would agree with that, but there's also a lot of people that agree that if the Cleveland Browns go 0-17, there's going to be a lot of happy people around the entire NFL, and probably, to be quite honest, some happy people in Cleveland that are going to think that any kind of karma that comes their way is going to be well-deserved. For not only the decision that they made to bring in Deshaun Watson, but just the way they've handled it and the way that they've talked about, doing their due diligence, yet not talking to the attorney or any of the victims of this situation with a quarterback who seemingly has put out apologies while at the same time saying he doesn't think he has anything to apologize for. So just a gigantic mess all the way around. But Tucker, what stands out to you about these 5 teams right here?
You talk about Nick Chubb and what Myles Garrett said about Nick Chubb. I think the best running back in the league is in this group, but I think he's playing for the Indianapolis Colts and Jonathan Taylor. The Colts are a scary team to me. If they get the quarterback figured out, I think that they're really good. And that's a team that I've always kept my eye on. They have Frank Reich on the hot seat. I think that's fair to say, especially at this point. A guy who's a quarterback who, is a famous backup quarterback and who led some incredible comebacks for the Buffalo Bills and even for the Maryland Terrapins when he played there in college. He's got to get the quarterback position figured out. And I think that's going to be a very big thing for him, is getting that quarterback position figured out. Maybe Matt Ryan can do it, but this is like the 5th quarterback in 5 years or something like that since Andrew Luck retired. So got to get that figured out. And I think the Raiders could be higher too. That might be a hot take, but they're 13 on this list, but I think they could be higher.
I agree with you on the Colts. I think they're one of those teams that I think they're seemingly, to a lot of fans in the AFC, going to come out of nowhere because they kind of forgot about him, but they haven't had a competent quarterback in a while. And that defense is good. And that I do believe Chris Ballard is good at what he does. I do believe Frank Wright. And I agree with you that, your team hasn't had success. I don't think Frank Wright, it's not his fault that Carson Wentz was just bad. But Matt Ryan is going to kind of settle that position, and it'll be interesting to see how the Colts kind of play it out. And they got to stay healthy, and Matt Ryan is not young. But to the Raiders' point, I agree with you that they could be higher on this list. But let's move on to the next 5, because we got 2 more AFC West teams there on the 12 through 8. And that's starting with the Denver Broncos. Listed at number 12 on this power rankings list from ESPN, and then moving up from there. Number 11, the Tennessee Titans. Number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 9, the Baltimore Ravens. And number 8, the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, so you've got the Raiders at 13, the Broncos at 12, and now the Chargers at 8. And you look at these 12 through 8, and you've got 4 teams in the AFC listed here. We knew they were going to start to be near the top, and that's exactly what's happening right now, Tuck.
Yeah, and the Denver Broncos one, I'm having a hard time buying into Russell Wilson, I guess. I think that the Raiders are better personally than him. I know what you're going to get with Derek Carr. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a very good first half of the season quarterback. Something happens in those later months. It's a little bit colder in Denver than it is Seattle. I know Seattle is a bad weather city, but I think that could play a factor into that. Tennessee Titans, they're really quiet. There's not enough buzz about the Tennessee Titans, and it's kind of making me worry a little bit, just because I'm just a little paranoid about them. And obviously, the Chargers at 8, I think you could put them in the top 5, and I'd probably agree with you at this point. But yeah, AFC's stacked. I mean, look at all those AFC teams in that.
Yeah, and the one NFC team we say who's on the hot seat for the Dallas Cowboys and head coach Mike McCarthy. Is there ever a Dallas Cowboys head coach who's not on the hot seat? Even if it's his first year, he's on the hot seat. Second year is on the hot seat. He's going to be on the hot seat. And Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat for a good reason. They spent a lot of money on some key positions, and they have not had the kind of success that they've expected to have. And so the NFC East is always going to be a fun division to watch, just because the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and all of that, the drama surrounding it. I hate that I like it, but I do kind of like it a little bit. And I follow that a little while, but yeah, interesting that we're getting into the AFC. And again, the Raiders at 13, the Broncos at 12, and the Chargers at 8. Now let's move on to the top 7. Before we do that, please let us know in the comment section. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know if you disagree with these power rankings and where you would have some of these teams and who is on the hot seat that you disagree with on some of what we've reported on, what we've seen from the ESPN, beat reporters in these local cities, sharing their thoughts on who's on the hot seat. But let's move on to the top 7 here on this rankings. And again, worth noting that once we get through these top 7, 10 of the top 16 teams in the NFL per this ranking from ESPN are AFC teams. So let's round out the top 7. The first 2 naturally are NFC teams. At number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 6, the Green Bay Packers. And number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's pause it right there before we get to the top 4, because obviously we have not mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs yet, but 7 49ers, 6 Packers, 5 Bengals. What stands out to you about those 3 right there, Tuck?
Pretty high on the 49ers for not really knowing what they're going to get out of Trey Lance. That's what really stands out. Trey Lance hasn't really played a ton of football. When you started to talk about his college career, it kind of got cut short because of COVID. He was in FCS school. They didn't play during 2020, 2021. And then he was drafted basically off of his 2019 film. So it's really interesting to see. I know he played in a few games last season, but as a full-time starter, you don't know what you're going to get. I think 7 is really high for them. The Green Bay Packers did lose MVS. They lost a couple weapons, added Sammy Watkins. Who knows how long Sammy Watkins is going to be on the field for them. 6 is an interesting spot for me to put them. And I do think the Bengals are better than them. But yeah, 7 seems very high.
It jumps out to me that I don't disagree with it, so I'll probably talk out of both sides of my mouth here. It doesn't surprise me that the Bengals are 5, but it does bother me a little bit just because I'm very much in we're the champs until somebody knocks us off. And I, again, have been saying it all offseason. I have no problem if everybody put, the Bengals as the number 1 team in the AFC. There's 3 teams in the AFC that really everyone is kind of rotating between who they say are the best. And we haven't gotten to, obviously, the Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills yet. But the Bengals won the AFC. They fixed their offensive line. Jamar Chase is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL right now. And Joe Burrow is looking more like a future superstar. If he isn't already a household name, he absolutely will be by the end of, if he stays healthy, by the end of this next season. He is an absolute stud, and they've got some weapons for him with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They've got some dudes. So it jumps out to me that they're listed as low as 5, and they'd be the number 3 team in the AFC coming off a championship. But again, I don't think they're better than the Chiefs. I don't think they're better than the Bills, but it does kind of bother me a little bit just because, again, you're the best until somebody beats you. So, all right, let's move on to number 4, and we'll spend a little time on this. Number 4 comes in at the Kansas City Chiefs. So ESPN has the Chiefs as the 4th best team in the NFL right now, behind 2 NFC teams and 1 AFC team. And we know now that is the Buffalo Bills, and they've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire as being on the hot seat, which I don't think it's completely unfair. That's coming from Adam Teicher, the local beat writer for ESPN. I don't think it's completely unfair, although, rookie season, you give a little grace and then got banged up. So I would say this is a huge season for him. Put him on the hot seat coming off an injured season. Little tough. Don't know who the better option would be, but Tuck, what do you think about the Chiefs coming in at number 4?
I think it's fair. I think when you look at the teams above them, and considering what the Chiefs lost in Tyreek Hill this offseason, that's a big draw for a lot of people, is what they lost in Tyreek Hill. A lot of people aren't entrenched, right, in the Chiefs as much as we are, so they don't see, well, look what they added with MVS, with Juju, with Sky Moore, with, Jody Fortson all of a sudden looking like a viable option. Justin Watson. People aren't looking at that basically at the level that we are. So I think that it's fair to put the Chiefs at 4 because they did lose maybe the best wide receiver in their history. But I think, and we've talked about this. We've talked about this, that we think that this offense can be a little bit more explosive, a little bit more efficient when there's more options for Patrick Mahomes to be spread out. I'm okay with the Chiefs being ranked at 4, to be honest with you. Put them at 4. I think their offense could be at 1, but if you're going to put them at 4, I'm all for it.
Honestly, put them at 15. I don't care. You're just going to piss fans off, and you're going to get the players to be like, what the hell? And maybe they focus. I don't think they're going to focus more, but I do think there's real and finding motivation, finding chips, finding little things that the players can say to one another to fire them up a little bit when they're struggling through a practice or whatever. It's like, hey, maybe they were right. Maybe we are the 15th best team in the league, and they go piss them off. Just like Sammy Watkins saying that, Aaron Rodgers on a whole nother level than Patrick Mahomes. It's just dumb. But yeah, Chiefs there at number 4, which leaves 3 more teams. Little surprising, the Los Angeles Rams coming in at number 3, the defending Super Bowl champions not getting the love from ESPN, coming at number 3. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being the number 1 team in the NFC at number 2. And ESPN has the Buffalo Bills as the number 1 team in the NFL, according to their latest power rankings right now. Tuck, how do you feel about that?
I probably would have flipped the order. So I probably would have went Rams, Bucks, Bills. Personally, is how I would have went with it. Because the Rams, they do return Aaron. Remember, that was a big story. If was Aaron Donald going to retire, Aaron Donald does come back.
Right.
But there's still a lot of stuff going on with that Rams team that I still think they can be very competitive. The Bucks, obviously, anytime you get Tom Brady back, I think that is a good look. So with the Bucks, and then the Bills, man, they've got Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a stud, and it's hard to talk about the Bills and not talk about how good Josh Allen is. All right, that's going to do it for the power rankings. BJ allowed me to wrap it up today on today's KCS and update. So thank you for sticking around to the very end of the episode. And let us know what you think in the comment section below about these ESPN power rankings. I know I had a little bit of discrepancies, so I want to hear your discrepancies below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a video, and turn on that bell as well. You'll get notified, so you definitely won't miss a video. We'll be live after the Chiefs preseason game against the Green Bay Packers. So make sure you tune in live on the YouTube channel or wherever you get your live shows. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We'll be live on the Twitch. Make sure that you are tuned in there as well. So for myself, Tucker Franklin, and BJ Kissel, thank you for listening to today's KCSN update. We'll be back with you tomorrow.